This is Inside the FLX from FingerLakes1.com. I'm Ted Baker. Merry post-Christmas. I'm joined today by the President and CEO of the Seneca County Chamber of Commerce, Jeff Shipley. Good morning.
Good morning, Ted. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to focus on tourism today, but I thought I'd start with one business question, and that is, have you heard anything anecdotally or in hard figures about Christmas shopping season? It sounds like nationally there was a nice rebound in 2021.
Well, there was, and everything that we have had anecdotally suggests the same thing here in the local region. With internet sales these days, we have seen a noticeable decline from in-person traffic nationally, but locally, and that's what we have an abundance of really neat, unique gift shops here locally. We have seen the exact opposite, where people are coming. Now, sometimes they're finding them through the internet, and you would be amazed at how many local retailers that we have that ship their products nationally throughout the country. And so that has really helped certainly our economy in our region, and it's been very good for those local retailers.
And the same story for the tourism season in 2021. Before we get into that, you are the official TPA, which is Tourism Promotion Agency for Seneca County. So what does that mean in terms of, it means you get the I Love New York dollars. What else does that mean to be the official TPA for a county?
Yeah, so certainly every county in the state has a TPA, a Tourism Promotion Agency, and really that is the gatekeeper for the interaction with the state of New York on many levels, as you said, with the state grants. But beyond that, we work with the county governments to really utilize fundings through the occupancy tax revenues generated. That's really how most TPAs are funded. And we work primarily with the county government to promote that destination to the world. And so every county in the state has one. We operate with many state agencies across the board. We operate with all of our local tourism businesses, really to spread the message about the county that we are the tourism promotion agency for, and really bring visitation into our community.
We were going to have Karen Kuhl here from Tour Cayuga. She couldn't make it. We'll talk to her at another time. But you have similar situations in Cayuga County. You think of Auburn, but it's a very big county. Same thing in Seneca County. Waterloo and Seneca Falls are very close to the thruway, but it's a big county stretching north-south. So how do you make sure to get everybody promoted and make sure that people know that there's more than what you find just a couple miles off the thruway?
Yeah, so it is a challenge because of how expansive our community is. Here in Seneca County, it is more lengthwise north to south, so there is quite a separation gap between one end to the other. But we do as good a job as we can to spread the word a lot through digital means in this day and age. Our website is really one of the biggest gatekeepers that we bring information and audience to. And that has as a complete a database as there exists in our community. Things like working with our partners are extremely important as we move forward to spread this message. We rely a lot on some of the committees that we operate as well at the Chamber of Commerce. So people that kind of extend our reach, if you will. We're a smaller office, as you'll find across the Finger Lakes region in the most case, but we need to rely on our committee members, our volunteers, and our industry professionals. The tourism industry here in the Finger Lakes, very important to our economy, but it is quite the robust industry of professionals.
Let's talk a little bit about I Love New York. I think that is probably considered across the nation one of the better statewide tourism initiatives. It's been around for a long time. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows the symbol. And they've really tried to step up, I think, during these difficult last couple of years.
They really have. Our state has led the way when it comes to tourism promotion for many years. You just mentioned the logo. Everyone, it's sort of the envy of other states in the country is that I Love New York, very, very classic and memorable logo. But our state really has invested, has been committed to promoting the state from a tourism standpoint for many years. The director of the I Love New York program in the state is Ross Levi. He has been to our region many, many times. He loves the It's a Wonderful Life Festival, for example. And that's really, that's something I think that goes overlooked, is the dedication and the commitment and interest from some of the state leaders. Governor Hochul has been in our region many times. Certainly when she was lieutenant governor of the state, she had a very visible presence in our community. And it's one thing to sit in Albany and sort of move papers and push buttons and tell people how to run things, but it's another thing entirely to get out and experience those areas. And that's what we're very fortunate here in the Finger Lakes, that our state leadership has a lot of experience with this area, and it pays. It shows in the final outcome.
And same thing with Bob Duffy before. He liked it so much he bought a vacation place here in the Finger Lakes.
That is true. Bob Duffy has been a big champion for the state. And, of course, now he is the president of the Rochester Chamber of Commerce, and we work closely on many issues. And, Bob is the same way.
So before we get into kind of a look back at the 2021 season, you mentioned It's a Wonderful Life, 75th anniversary, more cast members than ever, George's car, 4,000 or 5,000 crazy runners running in December in the cold, and it was just another big hit.
It really was. Kudos to everyone that is responsible for that festival. They do a remarkable job each and every year. The festival has grown each and every year, and that's really the exciting thing, is to see how far away some people are coming from for that event. There are a lot of dedicated fans out there of the movie It's a Wonderful Life. But for our area, what it means, when the tourism, when the visitors leave, is the economic impact that has for our region. And it certainly is an economic impact when you have events of that magnitude that bring visitors here, and with some of the media coverage that we have for the event. And we were fortunate to have some really outstanding coverage this year for the event. We had, it was featured on the NBC Today show. I'm sure many people saw that. It was featured on a number of local networks. In fact, I was just called the other day from someone in the Buffalo market that saw it on their daily news segment and was very interested and wants to come up now because of it. That's the type of thing that when you have an event like this and you have some of the media exposure from this event, that it brings the residual effects that come after the festival and the crowds have left. It's just a remarkable asset for our area, and we couldn't be prouder of everyone that had a hand in pulling it off.
And if you haven't seen it, Jim Senecropi put in about a 20-hour day, I think, that weekend. Check out the video of the Wonderful Run and the Wonderful Life festivities. And we've talked about this in the past. When you talk about niche tourism, people come here for one reason and then find other reasons to come back. They'll come here for It's a Wonderful Life and then say, wow, there's some really cool inns, or they come in the summer and say, it's a food paradise, and the wineries, of course. I mean, you get them in the tent for one reason, and maybe they'll come back for others in the future.
And so much of that has been driven by the wine industry up to this point. People know the wine, they know the great Rieslings and some of the other great products that they're going to find here in the Finger Lakes. And then when they get here, it's our job to also help direct them in other ways. And we have visitor information staff that does that at several information centers around the community. And most of our communications, our website, for example, is really meant to spur that other traffic. And you can even make that case now with Del Lago and the casino. As people are coming here, they're finding more and more to do, and that is just so exciting when you have folks say, oh, I didn't know that was here, or I didn't know that we could do that, and I'll be back. And they do come back in great numbers. We're going into the winter season now here in the Finger Lakes, and there are so many activities to enjoy here in the Finger Lakes. We are an outdoor really area. We have a lot of natural assets outdoors, and the winter is no time not to enjoy that. We have a lot of great activities to go out and explore in the winter season. For example, down in the Finger Lakes National Forest, down in the southern part of our community, there is so many nice hiking trails. And in fact, now you can even go through those trails and experience them on horseback. And we have a property called D&K Ranch in the southern part of the community that has a whole business taking people on horseback through the Finger Lakes National Forest on guided tours. And they've just added overnight accommodations to their list too. So a fun way to get out and enjoy the outdoor elements, especially when there's a nice snowfall, a fresh snowfall. Also, Montezuma, the wildlife refuge. This is a slower time generally for the wildlife refuge, but it is a fantastic time to go out, especially if you're local, to go out and experience some of the wildlife that exists. So those are two examples of the thing. And the wineries, we mentioned the wineries. Everyone sort of thinks the wineries shut down, the wineries and the breweries shut down in the winter, and couldn't be farther from the case. They are open and welcome, and many of them have regular music events, music acts that they bring in throughout the winter to help draw crowds and really showcase their venues.
And if you're the kind of person that really wants to talk to the winemaker and have a little more intimate experience, this is the perfect time of year for that, because you don't have quite the crowds that you might on a midsummer Saturday.
Oh, you said it. And they are very eager to engage in the traffic, engage in their visitors, and tell the story of those wines.
So our world was turned upside down in 2020. I mean, in April, you couldn't go to a restaurant. There were travel restrictions from states, and the tourism industry was knocked back on its heels. It rebounded. So obviously it was going to go up in 2021. So I guess, how does 2021 compare to the last normal year of 2019?
Yeah, so we were pleasantly surprised, maybe not surprised, but we were very happy to see that not only did we surpass 2019, but 2020, I should say, but we surpassed 2019, which up to this point had been an historic year for the region in terms of visitation. And, I think there's a lot that goes into that. Certainly our first and foremost, our tourism industry here in the region. We are so lucky and fortunate to have so many tourism assets that exist here. But also, I think to some extent, COVID, while it certainly was devastating to large portions of the travel and tourism industry, it also sort of helped our region from the standpoint that it exposed this area to new markets, many of which are in some of the more urban areas, the city area, the markets like New York City and Philadelphia. It exposed a good amount of people that hadn't been here before to come and explore in an area that wasn't so far away from them. We work so hard to try and drive that message. This is within a day's drive for maybe 2/3 of the population here in the Northeast. And when we get them here and we get them to experience it, we've got them hooked. And that's really what drove a big number of the increase here in 2021 as we've gone through it, is that sort of drive market, the closeness to home. It's far enough away, but it's not too far. It's still a safe area to travel. That's the sort of messaging that we were promoting, certainly, and it worked. We saw a tremendous increase spurred by some of that traffic that now will go back and come back again, share it with other friends and family, and they will come back. So 2021 was a remarkable year for tourism. We expect that to actually have room for growth even, because one of the areas that hasn't returned from COVID has been that group travel market, the meetings, the weddings, those are the types of markets that really haven't returned to the extent that they were pre-COVID. And so as those come back, and we have every reason to believe that they will, and we are actively promoting this area, for example, as a group travel destination, we think that there is even more room for growth.
How has the profile changed in terms of where people are coming from, and how do you track that? That always fascinates me, is how you find out who's coming, where they're coming from, why they're coming, and how that changes over time so that you can adapt in your marketing.
Yeah, so we live in an amazing world, Ted. Certainly technology is so advanced. I've been in the industry 20-some years, and we have the tourism promotion industry, the tourism promotion agencies throughout the region are as sophisticated as you will see in the marketing world. But how they have grown over the last 10 or 15 years has been just phenomenal when it comes to the technology that is at our fingertips now. And, we do a lot of research. Seneca County and a number of counties in the region partnered together and ran a research, a mobile research project over the last couple of years. It continues to go as we sit here and talk today, and it tracks people from their cell phones in terms of where they are within the region, where they came from within the region. It's so advanced that it knows where the user's home base is, so we are able to see where they're coming from, how long they spend in the region. Those are some of the ways. That's one of the ways that we are able to get a gauge on where people are coming from, how long they're coming from. We have really advanced analytics that drive our websites and our digital advertising campaigns, and so we are able to target markets in areas that we have identified as traffic. From this research project, for example, and we can see. Did they click on our ad? Did they engage with our ad? We can even track, in some cases, we can track, did they see that advertisement and did they come here and spend money with a credit card purchase as a result of some of the messaging? So we do a lot of analytics based in our office and in our offices among the region tourism professionals. We track everything from really impressions, the amount of times a message has been shown, to the engagements, how many interactions have those advertisements or impressions generated, how many website visits that we have. We track a lot of various data points to sort of hone in on how many people are in our area and where they came from.
You've won awards for your visitor's guide. Remind us, a few years ago, you revamped it in a couple of ways. One was to go away from sort of the traditional, here are the restaurants, here are the wineries, here are the hotels, listings, more to a storytelling format. And you also incorporated it with the digital side. So for people who like the old-fashioned printed guide, you can get it, but then there are codes you can scan and links you can go to tie that digital experience with the traditional printed guide.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's all about a user experience. And you said it best, storytelling. We really got away from just maybe an oversized phone book, if you will, to more of a story-based instrument. And we have a great story to tell. There are so many personalities among our tourism community, certainly here in Seneca County, that we wanted to showcase. And, we had talked about it earlier when you were mentioning how winemakers want to tell their story, want to have more of an intimate setting when they interact with visitors. And it's the same way on the other side. Visitors want more information. They want to have that personal relationship. That's what it's really all about in the world of marketing these days, is really selling that story, selling that relationship, that trust, building that trust factor, if you will, with our visitors. And that's part of why we made the strategic switch in terms of how we positioned and marketed our community. And you said it best. We do a lot to tie it back into the digital presence, because so much of digital, well, number one, digital is cheaper than traditional print in most cases, and number two, we can change it and sort of craft that message and target that message a lot quicker, more nimble than we can with a printed piece. But you would be surprised at how many people still want to hold something. They whether it's a map of the area or whether it's just a printed brochure in their hands, they still are in the market for that, and those have been flying off shelves, from our distribution points as we track those as well, so we can see what areas of entry are they most apt to take from, how many are going. We do a significant amount of tracking, and our guide has been very popular over the last couple of years.
Another part of your marketing has been a media promotion firm that you use that's been very successful. You mentioned the Today Show covering It's a Wonderful Life, but over the years you've gotten a lot of high-profile pieces, and when the New York Times or the Chicago or L.A. paper writes a feature on the Finger Lakes, that's reaching a lot of people.
It is, and in most cases, the asset that they're talking about, the tourism property that's featured, would not be able to afford that type of coverage on their own. And so it all comes back to impressions and eyeballs and getting that message out, creating a story, maybe where there is none in some cases, or none that are readily apparent at the time. But public relations is a really big part of what I do, what my counterpart in Cayuga County, we talked about, Karen does, and some of the other regional partners that we have, is generating that media coverage. And we have been really successful over the past year here in Seneca County. Certainly, we had talked about the It's a Wonderful Life Festival. I literally just got done a week ago, along with Karen. We pitched a story to the CBS Saturday morning show, and they came and did a segment that will be released sometime coming up in the near future on the dairy industry and how the dairy industry has changed here. Here locally, they focused on a couple of our local dairy farmers and dairy industry professionals, one of which was Miranda Cheese, just to see how dairy has evolved and how people in the industry are evolved. And certainly from an agritourism standpoint, we wanted to showcase Miranda. And so one of the things that I think is interesting and could be interesting to a lot of our viewers is what we do to get that generate that media exposure. When we have a producer for the Saturday morning show, we will pitch the story. We will put together an itinerary. We will work with the staff members at local lodging facilities to either defray costs or pick up some costs in some cases. And when they come here, we want to tell the whole story, right, of our area. And these producers and anchors, they might be focused on a certain area. So it's our job to try and weave in other aspects as well. And this happened recently with the It's a Wonderful Life Festival. I brought around a travel writer from the Financial Times of London, and her story was really focused on the festival and what Seneca Falls means as the It's a Wonderful Life. But we were able to get her to places like Barrister's Bread and Breakfast. When she was looking for places to eat, we gave her a full itinerary and a full experience of some of our local restaurants. And don't you know it, but Connie's Diner made it into the story. So these are ways that we work. Once we have a travel writer that comes up to our area, we are with them side by side, taking them throughout our community, showing as many assets as we can and talking up others that we can't, in hopes that we're going to land coverage for that property. And in many cases we do. And boy, isn't it a neat experience when you open up the Boston Globe or the New York Times, or you see yourself on the CBS Saturday morning show. It really makes the business owner feel special and appreciated, and it really warms our heart too to see that kind of coverage.
And in an interconnected digital world, you never know who's going to see that message. Tell us a story a few years back, the people from England who came to paddle the Cayuga-Seneca Canal.
Yeah, and you were a part of that,
yeah.
Actually. That was a really neat, again, that started with a pitch. We worked with our international tourism crew at the state of New York, at I Love New York in the state, to bring kayakers over here to experience the canal, the Erie Canal. And as you know, we have a great stretch of Erie Canal here in Seneca County that connects both of the lakes. And, they did their excursion. We really showed them a great time here in Seneca County, really made them feel welcomed and appreciated, and They went back and after their story, we continue to receive visitors from England looking for that similar experience. They want to enjoy some of the things that they read about or they saw. And this is how many years later. And that's again, the power of public relations. It maybe doesn't always come as instant gratification, but it's still paying dividends years later.
So as we've talked about, the visitor profile has changed a little bit during COVID. More people are, especially locals, are wanting to take advantage of the tourism scene now. So let's talk about winter and some of the things we can do close to home. And I'm going to hook up with Karen at some point here in the future. They have something they call Hybrication that's all built around that theme in Kayuga County. But regardless of the county, we locals, and you talked about people not knowing about stuff. I didn't know about the stables doing horse tours. So there's always an education process for people right here in our backyard to know what there is to do.
Yeah, so we tend to focus a lot of our time and energies on promoting the area to visitors outside the region, and there in many cases, for the summer, for the tourism season, the heart of the tourism season, I should say, in the Finger Lakes region, it's typically from June through November, through the harvest season at many of the wineries. So if you're a tourism business, you're really trying to make your money in that time frame, right? The rest of the months of the year, many of those places do not close their doors. They are still open. They are in some cases, mom and pops and smaller businesses that really rely on the local community to come and visit and experience and perhaps buy some of their wares throughout the season. And so when we get into this type of time of the year, we really like to promote that message of be a visitor in your own backyard. I mean, it doesn't have to be just winter season. It can extend certainly throughout the rest of the year, but be a visitor in your own backyard. Maybe experience some of the things you didn't know existed or have changed maybe since you were last year. We talked about the wineries and the breweries. Most of them are still open and have many events. We talked about the musical entertainment that they have. We mentioned a great opportunity to get outside and experience the region and the elements was things like Montezuma and the D&K Horse Ranch. This is a wonderful time to visit our museums. All of our museums are open. Most of them are free, and it would be a tremendous boost to many of them to be able to leave a tip or donate a little bit something to them if you like the experience that you have, because we have got some incredible assets, whether it's the National Women's Hall of Fame that has really undergone a metamorphosis in Seneca Falls and is really, I believe, going to be very tied into our economy as we move forward here in Seneca County, to places numerous as we head a little bit farther south. The Three Bears, for example, in Ovid is a wonderful example of a historical facility that has this rich history to it and it just begs to be discovered. And so there are many opportunities for people to experience that right here. You don't have to go very far. It's a wonderful little trip to showcase to friends or family what we have here in the area, and it really helps our economy.
That sounds like another trail opportunity. We've got the wine trail, the cheese trail. We could have the museum or history trail. I mean, on a smaller scale, almost every little town and village has its own local history room that's open part-time and staffed by volunteers, and I can imagine people really wanting to go and see all of those.
That's right. That really is, and I can relate it to on the Chamber of Commerce side of things, getting calls from prospective developers interested in maybe redeveloping some of the historical aspects of our community and wanting to know a little bit of the backstory behind it. And we regularly work with our historical societies to give them either the information or put them in touch with those folks over at our historical societies. The Seneca Falls Historical Society, we paired up with the Haunted History Trail of New York State. There's a big niche market for that, and that has really added a lot to the visitation for the Seneca Falls Historical Historical Society. So there's some really unique stories that really go along with many of our properties that are waiting to be discovered, and that's why we sort of rebranded ourselves Discover Seneca over the past year and a half.
I'll put in another plug for FingerLakes1.com. There was just a podcast with Seneca County historian Walt Gable recently, and he's fantastic every time he speaks. So if you're a history buff, you want to see that. I always like to talk about the trends and the new niches. So what are we looking for in 2022 in terms of more niche opportunities or trends in the travel industry?
Yeah, so we're still seeing a trend of what we call pod travel, which is friends and family getting groups together and coming and exploring the experiences that we have. I definitely think that is a trend that is going to stay with us for some time as we move forward, catering to those smaller groups of travelers as we move forward. And certainly that's a lot of what many in the tourism industry have sort of retooled their organizations for, whether it be the intimate crowds at a wine tasting or just the way that they're gearing their interactions with people as they make their way to our area. So I definitely think friends and family travel are going to be here to stay. I think as you kind of said it in jest there a little bit, Ted, but the trails, packaging things together is what people are really interested in. They don't always have as much time as we'd like them to have to experience our area. So what can we do to bring together partners, maybe partners that haven't historically worked together? Think of wine and cheese in our region, right? A few years ago, you had wine, but you didn't have some of the other elements. And now just about every winery you go to, there is a cheese component there. There is local foods that are part of that, whether it be packaged or whether it be food trucks. So just putting the experience together for people is certainly a trend that we expect to see as well. And seeing some of those strategic partnerships evolve has been really fun to watch in the area as well.
It's interesting you say that. I was talking to the new owner of Knapp Winery recently, a conversation you'll hear in the near future, and they have a restaurant, and he said, I want people to come to our restaurant and go, I didn't know they had a winery.
Right, absolutely. That's sort of what we are striving for, and we have gotten many of the wineries in our area, I think, have figured that out and are really taking the ball and running with that. But as we bring more and more partners together, it really evolves into some fascinating approaches that are just one more feather in the cap for our region.
Jeff Shipley with the Seneca County Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for coming in as always. Always enjoy talking tourism, and best of luck breaking those records in 2022.
I appreciate it, Ted. Thank you for having me.
This has been Inside the FLX from FingerLakes1.com. Tomorrow morning, 9:30, Josh Durso will be here, and Jackie Augustine will join us for the debrief as we look back at the big stories of 2021. We'll talk to you then.